Hi, welcome to Miss Music, or welcome back to Miss Music if you've been here before. Now, imagine betting your entire career on a 20-minute song about a dysfunctioning, dystopian future right after your record label has begged you to be more commercial. That is exactly what Rush did with 2112, and somehow it didn't just save them, it has turned them into legends. In this video, I'm going to break down why 2112 was such a reckless gamble, what makes the title suite so powerful, even if you don't always listen to the whole thing, and how this one album completely changed Rush's future. And at the end, I'll share how 2112 quietly rewired the way I think about music. And I really want to hear what you think about this album too. This whole series started when I took a look at their first eponymous album, but a few weeks back I covered Caress of Steel, and really it's not a fun listen. If Caress of Steel was the album that nearly killed Rush, then 2112 was the album that dragged them back from the edge. But there's a twist. For a band that literally saved their career with this record, I would say most people still don't know who they are, haven't heard of them. I mean, is Rush the band that nobody knows? How did this supposedly uncool band create a 20-minute prog epic and turn it into a career-saving statement? To answer that, we need to go back to the first time 2112 hit your ears. Now, 2112 was probably the first Rush track I ever heard. And do you know what? As a teenager, this track really blew me away. It was the first proper concept piece I'd heard. It was the first time I realized music could tell a story over a whopping 20 minutes. And it was the first time I had encountered this level of musicianship. Today, it's not one of my absolute favorite Rush albums. I don't listen to it that often, but that pulsating 70s synth at the start of 2112, every single time, it still sends shivers down my spine. What's staggering is how different it feels from Caress of Steel. Despite coming out less than a year later, you can hear that something has suddenly snapped into focus. The version of Rush we think of as classic Rush has finally taken shape on this album, and a huge part of that is Neil Peart, who somehow manages to level up from an already brilliant drummer to, how is this even humanly possible, drummer. In a second, I'll get on to why 2112, the suite itself, could so easily have been a disaster. But first, I want to talk about the moment I started noticing the drums. On this album, they become something else entirely. They're not just providing rhythm, they're part of the whole storytelling. You notice the drums on 2112 in a way I didn't on the earlier records. Fills that feel like plot twists and accents that feel like punctuation. And that ties into why the whole 2112 suite works as more than just a prog rock indulgence. So what do we actually think of the 2112 suite itself? I'll admit something slightly shameful. These days, I rarely listen beyond the Temple of Syrinx. Not because it's bad, it doesn't quite, the rest of the tracks don't quite live up to the first two tracks, but it's because it's like reading or rereading a favourite book. You know the story so well, you don't always feel like you need to go through it chapter by chapter again. And that's the thing, 2112 could have so easily have gone wrong. It could have turned into this kind of very bloated, pompous vanity project. Instead, it's an electrifying, fist-pummeling allegory that still works, even if you're only catching parts of it. But underneath the sci-fi and guitar heroics, there's a more human story going on. Lyrically, it continues Neil Peart's rage against collectivism in favor of individualism, a theme that I think runs throughout much of Rush's work, at least into the 90s. On the surface, it's a sci-fi story about a totalitarian society in the year 2112, where all art and culture are collectively controlled by a group of priests, and any kind of individuality, any individual creativity is outlawed. But I guess you can also read it as a giant middle finger to the record company. We'd like more short radio-friendly songs, please. Cool. Here's a 20-minute anti-authoritarian suite that takes up the entire first side of an album. I mean, that's not stubbornness. That's suicidal confidence, and hats off for them for being that brave. While side 1 of 2112 is genuinely electrifying, side 2 is a bit more patchy, I think. And it's what stops this album becoming like a truly classic piece of work. But side 2 is bookended by 2 great Rush songs. It kicks off with A Passage to Bangkok, which as a teenager was, let's be honest, extremely exciting because of all the drug references. It's cheeky, it's melodic, and it's one of those tracks you instantly remember. And the album closes with Something for Nothing, which is a really powerful rocker that I think thematically ties everything back to the individualist spirit of the 2112 suite. There's a sense that nothing is truly free, and that what you create and who you become are ultimately down to you. But in between those, I think the quality wobbles a bit. The Twilight Zone is okay, perfectly listenable, but it's, nothing particularly special. Alex Lifeson's Lessons feels like a hark back to the first Rush album, grounding them again in that kind of 70s hard rock tradition. And Geddy Lee's Tears it's fine, but one thing Rush never fully mastered, in my view, is the slow, poignant ballad. And to be fair, not many rock bands do. Their strength is in movement, energy, and complexity. And when that slows down too much, some of the magic seems to drain away. If you want to hear Rush do poignant, really heart-tugging songs, still over these kind of monstrous rock beats, then I would say listen to the woefully underrated Vapor Trails, where Peart confronts his own loss and sorrow through song. I find that album very touching. So with an album that's this uneven in places, why do many fans talk about 2112 as if it's almost a religious experience? Well, because I guess 2112 was really more than just an album. It was, in a sense, a declaration of independence. It's the sound of a band saying, if we're going down our way. And I think that chimes deeply with anyone who's ever felt misunderstood or maligned. It really connects, I think, when you listen to it. I would really love to hear what this album means to you. But before we get to that, I want to look at what happened after The Gamble, because this record didn't just keep them afloat. It completely rewrote their future. Released around April the 1st, 1976, 2112 became Rush's commercial breakthrough. I mean, it only peaked at the beginning at number 61 on the Billboard charts, but over time it went triple platinum in the US. That success saved the band's career and earned them the creative freedom that they had been so desperate for. Because of 2112, they were allowed to keep experimenting on albums like the brilliant A Farewell to Kings and beyond. The iconic Starman logo on the cover perfectly sums up what they achieved, a fusion of their hard rock roots with progressive ambitions. 2112 wasn't just a gamble for creative independence, it was an absolute victory. It solidified their fan base and proved that artistic conviction could triumph, at least sometimes, over commercial pressure. It cemented Rush's reputation as one of rock's most uncompromising, enduring bands. And it's a testament to the three of them that they didn't just fold after Caress of Steel. I mean, think about it. Most bands would have taken the hint, played it safe, and quietly disappeared. Instead, Rush did something unthinkable. They doubled down. They gambled everything on a 20-minute dystopian epic, and it paid off. If you're still here at the end of this video, I want to turn it over to you. I'm really interested about how people experience music, how they first come to music, what their first impressions were. So, what does 2112 mean to you? What is your favourite track? And do you listen to the whole 2112 suite, or do you stop, as I do normally, at the Temples of Syrinx? And did any of you actually see the tour? I mean, that must have been incredible. I really, really envy you if you did. Share your memories and thoughts in the comments below, especially if you discovered Rush recently through watching maybe a reaction video, or if you've been there from the beginning. I want to hear from you, and that's so exciting to follow a band from their roots. And if you're following along on this countdown, which has now become a countdown to London, album by album, hit the subscribe button. Don't miss the next chapter. We've seen how a near career-ending flop led to a 20-minute masterpiece. Next time we'll see what Rush did with their newfound freedom.